The
This ain't your grandpa's ham radio, no sir. Grab your rig, hit the trail, mindset on fire. Parks on the air, we're activating the wire. Summits on the air, climb high, scream CQ, portable power. No shack, just me and you. Experiment wild, break the old rules. Contesting pile-ups, we're owning the fools. No age limit here, it's a state of mind. Kids table rebels, leave the boring behind. Heavy signals, crashing down. CQ, own the town. Poda, soda, contest roar. Ham radio, kids table forevermore. Beat, boop, bang, waves in the fight. This is our revolution, turn it up tonight. Kids table, not your grandpa's ham radio, your future on the air. QRT out.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Ham Radio Kids Table. It is another beautiful Wednesday night, and
easy
here
for
we
you
are.
to say.
Exactly. You know what, and Vince, I'm glad you said that to me, because if the tables were turned, I would say the same thing to you. So
Love you, brother.
All right, love you too. Hey, so we have got a couple special guests in the house tonight. First of all, we have Mike and Becky, the ham radio duo, who is one part of the new Pebble HF project that's out there. Also, we got Thomas K4SWL, who is joining the stream, and Barb, who is the technical side of the Pebble HF, was scheduled to be here, but he is under the weather right now, and he is getting some shut eye. So the best to him, and hope he gets to feeling better. And we'll try to get him scheduled back on here. But in the absence, we are joined by Mike and Becky, and we're here to talk about the Pebble HF. So I guess if you guys could go ahead and just jump right in.
Yeah, sure. So we have echo on our side, so hopefully y'all don't hear our echo.
Nope, sounds good.
No, you're good.
Okay. It must be on our side.
Yeah. So I don't know what to do.
So, okay, with it, let's do some tech support here live. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand by. Do not adjust your set. Do not adjust your rabbit ears. So Mike and Becky, what I want you to do is I want you to go into the gear below the studio, and there is a function in there in audio settings called echo cancellation. And that may help.
Yeah, that's already turned on. And earlier we didn't have a problem. I don't know why. Hold on one second.
It could be Frank's fault.
Not my fault. Do you have the stream open in the background somewhere? For like chat purposes or whatever? No. Okay.
Okay. Is that any better?
We don't hear your echo, so it's up to you.
It's
Okay,
fine.
now we don't hear
It's
it.
fine for us.
Okay. All right. Hopefully that's so sorry about that. Well, thanks to everybody who's who hung on through with us through that. Yeah, so we would like to talk about the Pebble HF tonight. And so we really appreciate the fact that you are having us on to be able to share it with us, share this with everybody. And so the Pebble HF is a very inexpensive radio with the goal of getting more people into HF radio, and also outdoor radio, given that it's small and lightweight. And it's 100% open source. And so we hope to start selling these in early summer in order to be able to just make it accessible so that it's easy for people to get one.
Right.
So anybody who wanted to, being 100% open source, could go and order the boards themselves, order the parts themselves, and they wouldn't be dependent on us, which is awesome. It's just that there is it is quite a bit more expensive if you just bought quantity 1 or 2. And so we're organizing the logistics of it just so that it is much easier than having to know how to do all those parts, and then also having to do it in a quantity that would bring the cost down.
Yeah. So the goal is to have the cost low. So if we can get people interested, then we say, okay, well, now we can buy a larger quantity and we can do the behind the scenes work of getting the kit together and shipping it out and doing all that part of it, because we've been doing it already on a couple other products. So we're kind of familiar with that process, and we're like, okay, we're just going to take on that part to make it easier for people to get them.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So if I understand, if there'll be basically a bill of materials that if somebody wanted to buy the individual parts and pieces, they could do that, or there would be some form of like a sign up for a group buy, and when you guys hit a certain number, you would purchase the materials, receive them, and then kit them up and send them out.
So it actually will be even easier than that. So
Okay.
we have set up a website for the Pebble called pebblehf.com.
Okay.
And you can't buy it right now, but once it's available, you'll be able to scroll down to the bottom and buy it directly from us. And our goal is to make it and keep it in stock so that anybody who wants to get it could order it and then get it shipped to them within a couple of days. But it is also open source. And so just as for anybody who wants to be able to build their own, you can get it through us, but you don't have to get it through us. More of a something that we wanted to make sure was available to the ham radio community. And you mentioned that Barb couldn't join us today. I definitely would like to make sure that I give Barb a ton of credit. Barb has been fantastic to work with, and he's the brains behind the hardware of the Pebble HF. And this whole thing came about because a long time ago, when I was first getting started into ham radio, I had a beginnings of an interest in CW, but I didn't have any budget for any new hobbies at the time. And I saw a really inexpensive kit called the Pixie that was about $15 back in the day. And I thought that's all I needed. If I got that, I'd be able to learn Morse code and get on the air. And that's all I would need. And if it weren't for its existence, then I wouldn't have gotten started. So I'm very thankful to it for that. The challenge is that I did get a Pebble. I mean, I did get a Pixie, and I never was able to make a contact on it. And so I've been, had this background passion of I wish that there was a way to be able to use modern technology and more modern designs to be able to come up with something that could still be ultra low cost. And there were already lots of great radios out there, but something that was so inexpensive that you didn't have to give it a second thought. You just like, I'm kind of interested in this hobby, but okay, I can, and we all have that on the voice side with the Bofang and other radios, handheld radios. So something like that for HF. And so it turns out that somebody who had gotten one of our antennas said, "Hey, I'm getting this to use this with this radio called the Tiny DX." I was like, "What's that?" It's like, it's this little bitty radio you can use for digital modes that is powered with just your phone. And it's less than a watt, but it's powered entirely by your phone. You don't need a battery. And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." So I reached out to the designer, this guy named Barb, and didn't even know who he was at the time, and said, "Oh, hey, I heard about this little radio." He sent us one. We made a video about it. Becky had never done FD8 before, so she did it just, she's a 99% CW.
Yeah.
And so
it was a learning experience. At the time, we were both studying for our extras also, and we hadn't really done much digital mode at all. So we thought, all right, we're going to get this little tiny thing and play with it. And that kind of got us connected with Barb. And then in talking to Barb and just telling him how great the device was, he's like, "Man, I wish we could have something like that, but for CW." And then it just kind of evolved from there.
And he's like, "Yeah, adapting that for CW would be like a ton of work. But we could get the uSDX radio." I made a mono band, or no, he said that he sent me a link to a mono band version of it. Still, I'm clueless. Didn't realize that Barb had designed it. And he's like, "Well, you could just use that." And then I was like, well, can you connect me with the designer? So then I realized how ignorant I was.
"Oh, wait, you are the designer."
And so for clarity's sake, for anybody who doesn't know, so there was a QRP radio called the uSDX, and it was a precursor to an also very well-known radio, the True SDX. And the uSDX had origins with I should have learned my lesson about being ignorant before and learned all the ins and outs. But my understanding is it started life as a modification to the QRP Labs QCX radio to be able to add SSB capability to it, and then became its own independent radio. And so Barb was the hardware designer for the standalone version of the uSDX radio. and then he had already made a monoband variant, and so we collaborated with him. We'll make a monoband variant to keep the cost low, and then we just did lots of tweaks to make every change we could to be able to keep the cost low. And so many iterations later,
Yeah.
and lots of different design decisions. I guess there's always trade-offs in anything, and so anytime we had to make a design decision, we made it based on cost.
Also based on how easy would it be to build. Like I think that's some people's entry point of a kit is, no, I'm not going to touch a radio, especially not an expensive one, because I'm just going to blow it up. I'm going to break it, or it's not going to work. And so part of it was how easy could we make it to build. So some of the decisions were, can we make that a surface mount part? Can we get rid of a toroid? Can we do all these things to make it easier to build?
Yeah. So in the end, there's 14 parts that are all surface mount and 2 toroids.
14 that are not surface mount. They're
through hole
parts. Yeah.
So one of the design decisions to keep the cost low is to make it as surface mount parts as possible.
Yeah.
So that when you get the board and as a kit, it has as many parts as possible already on there.
Okay. Now I did see that you guys published, I think it was last week, a video, and I believe if you go to Pebble HF, it's also on that site, of a video of Becky actually building the kit.
Right.
Yeah. How was that? And have you built other kits before?
The first thing I ever built was an antenna. I did one of the K6 ARK antennas. That was my first soldering experience probably ever.
Okay.
And then I did
QCX Mini.
I did the QCX Mini. And so if I were to compare, yeah. And it worked, believe it or not, it worked.
There we go.
Yeah. But if I were to compare the difficulty level, it's probably, maybe a quarter of as hard, a tenth of as hard. It's really pretty beginner level. If you can solder, some basic solders. Probably the hardest part is the LCD. Thomas, you can chime in on that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I got a very early prototype of the Pebble HF. I've got it here. And I just used their video. They had like a version 1 video that they shared with me of how to do the build. And I mean, it didn't take me, I think, longer than 40 or 50 minutes. And that's mainly because I was taking my time doing it. I was really trying to take my time. It really was a quick build. There are 2 toroids to wind. One's like 7 winds and one's 10 winds. I mean, you could do that in your sleep. It's not tight. There aren't multiple winds on the toroid. That's one of the things with like the QMX, and some of those radios are really, really wonderful radios. But for a new kit builder, that can be a little intimidating, just the toroid part of it. The toroids are so easy to do in this, and their video is excellent. I mean, it makes it so easy to do the build as well.
Yeah, and Thomas was our very first early supporter.
Yes, he's like, I want to get the first one. I want to get it out there and get it on the air. So we thank you very much for that. Yeah,
absolutely. I wanted to support it right up front because the way they've got this set up, and they may speak to this, but the very early supporters are kind of paying it forward for other people in the future so they can get their economies of scale in place and get things going, with their group buys and everything. And I was very happy to do that because I love the idea of the project. So absolutely.
Yeah. And before we get too much further, you mentioned, we compared this a little bit to some other radios. I did want to say that this is not meant to compete with the other great radios. And if you already have your eye on a radio like the QMX, I would say definitely go get it. I mean, if you have the budget to be able to get one and you're interested in one, the QMX is going to outperform this radio. And it's almost like, starting off as trying to create something like the Pixie, something so inexpensive that you don't bat an eye having to pay for it, but then have it actually be usable enough to make contacts easier. It accidentally can do, because the fact they can do all the modes and it actually performs so well given what it is, you lose sight of the fact this is really a cheap radio. And so every once in a while, so like one thing is like with the QMX, I can grab any of the speakers that we've got, any of the headphones that we've got, and plug it into the QMX and have good quality audio. We have one speaker that sounds great on the Pebble, and we have another one that we don't use with it, and we have one pair of headphones that we don't use with the Pebble because it's built for low cost, so it doesn't have nearly as many parts, and it's not as robust. And so
yep. But that's the fun part of it. Like if you're brand new and you're getting into ham radio and you built this kit all by yourself and you're getting it on the air, you have to learn how to use it. You have to learn the ins and outs of, oh, how do I adjust this to make this audio better, or make the filters better for this contact, or you know what, that one's just too far in the noise, I'm probably not going to get it. You know, it's fun to play with, to figure out those little quirks because it's a cheap radio. So it makes it fun.
Yeah.
And
And
not
if
only that, Jody mentioned BS170 MOSFET PA stage is through hole, and that's a good choice for repairability.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I would say too that one of the benefits of having a radio like the Pebble HF and actually starting out, using a Pebble HF, is that if you can operate one of these and do really well with it, later on when you upgrade to another radio, it'll really feel like you're upgrading to something. And I mean that in a really good way, because this will actually help train your ears a little better than if you have a really highly filtered radio that's a high performance radio and that's your first radio. I do feel like people who jump straight into like really high performance radios, and let me tell you, a lot of people do that. The only negative is like sometimes it makes you a little less flexible later on when you have a radio that maybe doesn't have as many filter widths, things like that. You kind of get spoiled with it. But if you start with a radio like this, you kind of train the filter that's between your ears.
Yep.
Yep, very good point.
I remember when we first hooked it up and I was like, well, those are a little bit hard to hear. Is this really a beginner CW radio? But it does. It makes you really pay attention. It makes you think, and it makes you work hard for that contact, which is, to me, more fun.
Yeah,
Which is what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely fun. Like we just in testing even the very first prototype of it, we did things just to see if it could. Like and actually, I should probably take a step back and talk about some of the things that it can do as a beginner radio. But one of those things is that it has a very wide power range, like 7 volts to 14 volts. And so I was like, well, I've got a 9-volt battery. Let me see if I can power it from like a standard 9-volt battery, the same ones we put into our smoke detectors. And I was able to make lots of CW contacts with it. The screen dims a little bit, but but it worked fine. One of the other features is it's got a USB port on the side, and the USB port is just for power, but it does allow you, if you don't have a USB like if you don't have a special power bank, like a USB PD power bank or lithium ion battery pack that a lot of us have, you can just power it from your phone. That way you don't have to invest in it.
I know everybody's going to ask this or jump on it. USB-C?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
USB-C, but it's just for 5-volt power only. It doesn't do a cat control, and you can use digital modes with it, and we could talk about that a little bit more if you want. But it does not have a built-in sound card. We actually did make a version of the prototype with a USB sound card, and we were troubleshooting it, and we were still working on some things with it. And then we realized that if we pull the parts off from the radio, we will reduce the radio by enough to make it so that anybody who wants to can just pay $5 to $10 for one from Amazon.
Yeah.
And then the people who aren't ever going to use digital modes wouldn't be automatically paying that additional amount for the built-in sound card.
Okay, so form of a cost reduction, but also making it simple enough to obtain. Now, I do notice here on one of the pictures, 4.68 ounces. That's pretty light.
Yeah, so it's super light, and it has a built-in microphone and a built-in the PTT button. You can use it as a straight key also, and so you wouldn't even need an extra key or microphone to be able to go ahead and use it.
You need your phone and a USB-C cable and an antenna, and that's it.
Yeah, to test the radio the first time, I took it outside and just here in the front yard, And I thought I'll just hunt around for some, CW signals or something. And that's what I did. And I just used the built-in straight key on it, which when you're hunting is not that bad because you're not keying a ton. But it worked really, really well. Both of the contacts I made with that were very easy to get. I just hooked it up to a 20-meter in-fed half wave and did that. And I used one of those little small, super thin night core battery banks. I can't think of the name of it now. I don't have it here near me, but they're really tiny USB-C battery banks, and it worked brilliantly with this.
Oh, perfect.
So, and I also see here the power consumption, 80 milliamps for receive, 500 to 600 milliamps transmit at 12 volts. So you're getting the full 5 watts at that point.
Yes, you are. Yep. And like with this is the main battery pack that we use. It's a, I don't know how you pronounce it, but we'd say INU.
Oh yeah,
PD.
INU, the famous ones from Amazon. Yeah, I've got a couple of those.
Yeah. And so like some people have asked us, well, how many activations or what have you do you get per? We don't have any idea because we don't even think about charging them. We charge them like once every couple months, maybe.
Yeah, how many activations? Yep. Well, it depends on the power level you're using and the duty cycle and how many contacts you're doing and
how long you're out, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I got to say that the first activation I did with the Pebble HF, and I will have a video of that coming out pretty soon. I just paired like the speaker I had with it. I paired it with I think a paddle I was using and a 20-meter in-fed half wave, but I powered it with my iPhone, and that yields 1 watt output power. Had no problem at all doing the activation whatsoever, and I didn't even see. I was really curious, like how much it would hit the battery on the iPhone. I couldn't tell after the activation it had done anything to the battery. The only tricky part with that is like if you're taking photos with your phone while it's also the battery, it gets a little. That's the only problem.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We've gone out and done some activation. I've yet to do a full activation just using the PTT button, but that I am going to do it. It will be it's on my challenge list to activate just on the straight key. So, but I just did one the other day, and it's just a lot of fun. We used an in-fed half wave, and
okay. Yeah. So I see here also CW features straight key or iambic paddles or iambic mode. So you can do that with configurable tone frequency, separate side tone, and main volume controls.
Yeah, nice. And you mentioning that makes me realize that I neglected to thank Guido PE1NNZ. So, and if you're watching, the reason I probably forgot is because like we're standing on the shoulders of giants with this. He wrote the first version of the uSDX firmware, which is for sure the heavy lifting. We didn't have the opportunity. I emailed him, but we didn't have the opportunity to collaborate with him. But being open source, his gift of making it open source is what made it possible. And from there, I've been modifying and maintaining the firmware since then. But we made some, being CW operators, we made some changes specifically that we wanted to make for CW operators. So like things like being able to the default tone is 600 hertz, but making it so you could change it to be whatever tone you want it to be. And then also it had one main volume control, and we like to be able to adjust the volume up and down based on the signal that we're listening to. And so we made a separate side tone volume control. That way, once you set it, it stays still while you can adjust the volume based on what you're hearing.
Yeah.
And Jody, Vince, too late. Jody's already put it there. I'm gonna find a way.
Yeah.
As long as it's not Quindar tones, okay?
Oh no, that's what I want. Are Quindar tones? Are you kidding me?
Right?
That would
be
incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Quindar tones are the best. They're the best tones.
Geeks run together.
It's just what's nice is you can set your CW volume to be at a certain level, and then that way, if you have a quiet signal coming in, you can turn the radio volume up. But then when you send back, it's not super loud. You can control them separately, which is nice.
I
That's a
really
really nice
appreciate
feature.
that. I really appreciate that because a lot of the little radios I have, don't have that, and they're still really charming. They're still really fun to use, but I have to ride that AF gain while I'm operating because I'll hear a really weak signal and then I'll forget to do it, and then I blast out my earbuds or whatever when I respond with the side tone.
Yeah. Well, I think was it Eric from Elecraft said about the KH1 that radio was a radio that he designed for himself. Everything that he wanted in a radio was in there, and it kind of sounds like you guys are already starting to add those little special touches in the radio itself.
Yeah, and that's why I'm just very thankful that we met Barb, because he's been a super pleasure to work with, and he's just as enthusiastic about the mission of getting a radio out there that is general purpose for everyone. And so he's been really responsive to the early supporters that have had issues, and helped jump on the hardware issues that I say hardware issues we haven't had. That's a bad way to put it. They come with the territory of hardware questions and things like that.
Tech support. I mean, I get that with the Morse tutor kits, right? Somebody says, "Oh, Vince, I let the magic smoke out because I wired the power backwards. How do I verify that?" And those kind of things happen when somebody builds a kit, and that's part and parcel with selling a kit, is to give people some support, right?
I mean, you got to work out the bugs somehow, pun intended.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And we do have we have a Discord channel, which we started, a while ago, and we just have a channel on it on our server for the Pebble, and all the early supporters, we hope, if they've gotten in there and if they have questions or they're talking about different setups, or, hey, what kind of wire do I need for this, or the digital modes, or what kind of sound card. And so what's good is people are collaborating with each other, and that's part of what we're trying to do, is make it be community. So it's community supported, where people are helping each other.
Yeah, I think that the way that you've done this is really wonderful too, because, well, first of all, the reason why it excited me so much is that you have this radio that is so accessible, right? And I like how, that's kind of a theme with all of the stuff that you create, is that, even like the Just OK Mini and everything, it's just so accessible, very affordable. It works. It's not going to be like, your Just OK Mini is not a log periodic. The Pebble HF is not a Flex 60 something 100. It's just accessible and it works. And I mean, I've got to say that the cool thing about this, is you chose the 20 meter band, which I think is really good, especially right now. It really is the most useful band for both POTA and SOTA, I would say, when the two things I love doing the most. And you put all of the features I would look for in this for a basic radio, like having the separate side tone levels for CW. You also have, and I don't think you've even mentioned this yet, but you have a built-in microphone so that you can actually, you use the PTT here and you can talk into the microphone directly. You don't even have to have a microphone with you. So really, if you are traveling or something and you just want to keep a little radio with you, this weighs 5 ounces or whatever, have a wire, use your phone to power it. You just need nothing. It's all kind of right here. And it's $50 is what you're going for. I mean, it's just insane. I wouldn't have known what to do. When I started amateur radio in 1997, I mean, to buy a used transceiver, you were staring at $700 back then. I mean, it was really expensive. And I think people forget that. If you look at how money has changed over time in terms of inflation, it would even be higher than a lot of the Elecrafts, a lot of the just other radios. And this is just insanely inexpensive and just a no-brainer. I love it.
So, Mike and Becky, for reference, Vaughn says in chat, put Julie and I down for one. So you have at least POTA Power wanting one.
Perfect.
Well,
yeah.
I tell you, Vaughn, quit being lazy.
Wait.
To pebblehf.com and put your reservation in.
As long as they do the CW part, right? That's the kicker. They got to.
The way I interpreted that, put Julie and I down for one each.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
that's the way I interpreted it.
And of course, Julie's has to be bedazzled.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so it's all open source. So the
Yeah.
STL file for the case, it'll be open source too. So if you have your own 3D printer, you can pick whatever and print whatever colors you want on it.
No, bedazzled. It has to come in rhinestones.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
you can add them somewhere on here.
You
I'm
could put
sure.
them all around the perimeter.
Yeah.
You can tell.
Yeah, I
that,
could see the rhinestones all around the top of it, and
Yeah.
maybe some little LEDs, some fairy lights would go really nicely with this. Maybe you could power that off of your phone too.
Yeah. See, the rhinestones are functional. They'll add grip, right? Especially when you're hiking up on a soda. There, you want that extra grip.
I'm sorry, Tim. There's soda in Florida. There's really.
There's red ant mountains.
Pretty big.
Right. Okay. Sure.
I've seen them.
Sure. Let me just go climb that.
I'll check Sotless.
Let me just go climb that 4,000-foot mountaintop across the way real quick. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they might have to travel to get to some soda because there's nothing in Sotless there. But if they get into Georgia.
There you go. See, they're not far from Georgia. They were just up there, I think.
And
what we got to do is we got to take the Pebble HF to the Taco Bell soda for a hamvention.
Oh, there you go.
And we are going to Hamvention this year. We'll be up in Dayton. Hopefully we'll have some, not necessarily like a production, a full batch of them or anything like that, but at least a couple to demo and show and add to the sign up.
So I actually met Barb last year at the 4 days in May. Do you know if he'll be set up there?
Okay.
He's going.
He's going, and we'll be there when and he will at least have a Pebble to be able to see in person there. And if it's, and our hope is to have them available early summer. And to add a little bit of more detail there, we want to get them out as soon as we can. And we know that there's going to be enough demand to where we probably don't want to just do it all, release it all at one time. So we'll probably be releasing them in batches, and just to allow us to ramp things up and everything. And one of the things we want to be really careful about is the firmware. So our goal is to make the firmware good enough to where we know that all of the normal use cases that people would have, that it works well enough to where nobody would ever have to update the firmware. But it is software, so we know that we're already chasing a couple of bugs. And so unlike some other radios, it's a little harder to flash the firmware. So it uses an 8-bit AVR microprocessor on it. And so you have to have a $20 AVR ISP in-system programming cable to be able to flash the firmware. You can't just plug it in USB and drag and drop a file and let it reboot or something like that. You have to actually connect a cable. And most people won't be soldering on the header for programming it, so you have to very carefully hold it onto the board. So long story short is, one of the longest poles in the tent is probably going to be just making sure that the firmware has enough road time. So we'll very likely have some early batches available. We already sold out of the first early supporter batch. It's possible that if there's people that are like really itching to get that one, and they have a programmer and they don't mind having another one, then maybe it'd be worth doing another early support round. But our end goal though is to have them in stock and ship right away. It just may take us a little while to get there, and so
okay. I honestly I might have missed this. The ones that are in stock, they're going to be offered as just a kit, or will there be an option to where they can have it built in advance if it's somebody that doesn't feel comfortable with soldering or doesn't want to take, to have to build it themselves?
Yeah. So the official plan is they'll only be sold as a kit. And again, there's only 14 parts. One of the things that I know has happened with some of the other kits that are available are there are people that are very passionate about them and enjoy building them. And so if anybody is listening and that is their jam, we're hoping that there are some people that are willing to build small batches of them for people that really need them. And we're going to surely build a small number of them just to test, to make sure that each batch of boards is good and things like that. And we've had a couple people reach out to us that are in special circumstances where there's no way they'd be able to solder it together. And so that seems like a perfect win-win of being able to help them by giving them one of the ones that we're building as we go along. But
I think, Thomas, I think you even told us a great idea, like would be a club build where,
100%.
you know, you get your club to purchase, you know, a batch of 10 or something like that, and everybody gets together and it's under an hour, you know, and everybody could build it to learn even.
Yeah, club builds too.
I'm actually sending the Pebble HF link to the club president of one of my clubs that loves group build projects. Right, I'm literally right now sending it.
Yeah,
it's the first time I built this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a good club build, because it would take a minimal amount of supervision from like someone who knows what they're doing. If you've got people who are really inexperienced, a very minimal amount of supervision. You don't have to have, I mean, I think the only tricky part at all with building this is that you are putting some through-hole components on a board with some SMD components, right? And so you just have to make sure your soldering iron isn't like accidentally hitting like a capacitor or something that's on the board. I mean, it's the part, I think the part density is not bad at all. But like a newbie, that would be the one thing you'd have to point out to them. The rest of it, if you just have a simple soldering skills and you take your time, which you could take a lot of time with this, but even during a club, you could easily build this in an hour. And I think it'd be a really good, I think you could actually just fund the whole thing just through club builds. I think so many clubs will want to build this. That they'll be everywhere. They're just so nice and easy and so accessible as a club build.
Yeah, and I know that there's surely people that would rather not ever touch a soldering iron, but if and I'm probably somewhere in the middle, and I appreciate
he lets me do all the builds.
I noticed that.
But I do appreciate the fact that you know there's like a complexity threshold, and this is not beyond that for me. So like it still stays in the fun realm versus the stressful, going to take up the whole weekend.
And just as a reminder, if you are touching the soldering iron and it smells like chicken, let go.
You're
holding it wrong.
Make sure your solder is good, otherwise you'll end up with solderoids like what I had.
Yeah, and I thought I saw a comment come by about the build video. Did we release our build video? Public?
Yes, the build video we actually released, I think, last week as one of our, it's on our YouTube channel. The build video is there. And the reason we put it out there before it's really even available is so that people can get an idea, is this something I want to give a try? Is it something that looks like I can do it before they get on the list, or, you know, whatever, that they can kind of see what it's all about.
Yeah, I think Jody was asking about on the Git site. Is there a Git site too, in addition to the website, or?
There is. On the Pebble HF website, it links to both the hardware, Barb's hardware GitHub repo for the hardware design, and then also my firmware, the firmware repo, which is a modification of the uSDX firmware. So yes, the GitHub repos are linked. The build video is not in the GitHub repo though, but you can find it on our channel at Ham Radio Duo.
Yeah, there is also a build instruction guide, not video. It's just a manual, and I'm not sure if that's on the website. But
it's
that first link
literally right there, open source information has the two Git repositories that Mike had mentioned, and then a little bit further up page is the video.
Jody, it's not uncommon at a stage like this for a product to see a build video and not instructions, because this is the early stages and you don't want to be rewriting instructions over and over again. It's just faster to get out a video.
I might have done that a few times already. As I sit there and build it, I'm like typing like.
Yeah, in fact, we actually had to redo the build video because so when we did the antenna, we'd already built a bunch of antennas before we made our build video, so we could do it in our sleep. By the time we did the build video, we'd only built a couple of pebbles when we did the first version of the build video, and we realized that if you put the LCD on first, you can just lay it down flat and solder it really easily. If you put all the parts
If you
on,
put this on first, then when you go to put the LCD on, it's tipped to the side and it's harder to get it flat. So just by building a few of them, we're like, oh, it's easier if you actually do the LCD first, you know. So some of those things was as we built more of them.
Lessons learned is always a great experience. Failure is a great learning experience. And not that this was a failure, but you discovered an issue and figured out how to work around it to make it a little bit better.
Yeah, you know what you got from making mistakes, right? Experience to not do it again.
Yeah.
And so that's really valuable for building, you know, step-by-step instructions, and getting that LCD down. That's a complex piece for new people to solder, but it gets it out of the way and makes it easy for the other components on the other side.
Yeah. And then if you want to, like, here's an example. This is like the first version versus how they went down in size just by Barb adjusting where the hardware was and where everything was and a couple of parts coming off. And so he really was trying to
bring those back up again, and Tim, embiggen her, but put them on top of each other. Otherwise the vertical view isn't going to see them both at the, and bring them, look at the vertical view over on the side. There you go. There you go. Yeah.
So this is one of the early versions, and then this is the final version.
Yeah. So he moved the switches and moves things underneath the LCD. So it was just a lot of collaboration to how small can we get it, how inexpensive can we get it, and how easy to build.
And one of the core principles was, in terms of trying to keep it inexpensive, was trying to make every single part that's possible to be able to be a surface mount. And we went through a couple iterations where Barb was like, I was like, well, are there any other parts that can be surface mount? And then Barb was like, oh, I found another one.
Yeah. And back and forth, like, yay, I found another one.
Yeah. And then the other one is that in order to keep the cost of the boards low, making sure that it's only a 2-layer board. And so that also probably meant routing challenges for him. And so I think that squeezing it down to this size was just amazing that he was able to do that.
When he sent us the smaller version, we were just, really impressed with it.
Yeah, and since you pay sort of by board size, having that smaller board works. And as a portable operator, I always appreciate it, because you know what? It fits in this little shadow circuits pack that I have pouch. I'm able to fit it in here with the antenna and a battery in this little pouch. So, I mean, that's like, it wouldn't have happened had you had used the other have stayed with that other form factor. So I personally appreciate this.
Yeah.
Are we breaking out into bag talk, and you're going to tell us where that bag is from?
Oh, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started.
It's not zip lock, so we know that.
It's not.
Jody says, looks like a good project value for $50 in 2026. Nicely done.
Yeah.
So
that was
so
the goal.
You're targeting $50. How close are you to that now?
We're
for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, there are so we're very confident that we'll be under $50 when we release it. The only thing that could even add additional risk to that would be, unknown things like tariffs and stuff like that. And there's already a lot of tariffs that are already built into it. I would say the biggest challenge, and this is probably worth talking about, would be international sales, because we do ship to several countries already with our antennas, and we're far from experts on international shipping. But it's common sense that for a radio that's all about cost, it's really unfortunate if it becomes no longer low cost just because of the cost of shipping from the U.S. And so we are, but being open source, anybody would be able to also sell them. But we are looking to find a good partner that would be able to handle the logistics in a reliable manner, and we could help them in Europe. And so we actually had to delay a call with somebody who had volunteered for just such a thing, and we haven't been able to meet with them yet to just talk through the details. But the hope is that we'll find at least one source to be able to help share a recipe with, so that they can handle all the logistics in a different part of the world, so that they can ship from there and not have it be as expensive as it would be for the end user having to ship it to them.
I have 2 points of contact I can give you after stream for UK and Australia.
Okay,
Yeah, that'd
very
be great.
cool.
Yeah.
And Australia is a big challenge for shipping, just because of the cost. In some cases, I'm hearing $40 for some basic stuff just to get from like the United States to Australia. So having a local resource there will probably make that a lot better.
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be some things to sort through in that, like, you know, we can share where we source our parts from with, you know, whomever that might be, but it may not make sense for somebody in a different location to source the parts from the same place. They may be able to get the same parts cheaper, but, you know, we evaluated multiple different vendors for different pieces and know which ones didn't work for different reasons. And Barb also has experience with reliability from different manufacturers and stuff. So
Yeah, we've definitely learned lessons. I think our projects have gone from, you started with a straight key, and then we went to an antenna, and then of course he's like, oh, well, we should try a radio. But we've learned along the way.
You know, I've got one observation that I want to share about you guys, and I was saying this to somebody else today in prep for this interview. So first off, y'all haven't been hams all that long, and you've just dived in with both feet, and just that little story you've just told exemplifies why it's so great for us to watch you and your enthusiasm and support you, because well, let's just try this thing, and the next thing you know, you're building a radio. It's just like most people would like buy wire and stuff, and, you know, spool wire up and sell it, you know, something simple, straightforward. You guys have just dived in all 4 feet at once.
Yeah, literally.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with almost every single thing, it's one of those things where it's like, if you knew everything up front, you might not have even started because it's so much.
Yeah.
But the journey is the fun part, right?
Yeah, we're having fun doing it, like the process, and all the people that reach out to us and are having so much fun on their Just Okay Mini. And just Thomas, I mean, when he put a video out and he's used his phone, I think, to power 1 watt. Oh no, he's like, well, let me just see how this works. I'm going to crank it down to 1 watt, and he got Great Britain, like Geo, and I'm like, okay, it's great. It's so much fun for us to watch people using a product like that, and it's a lot of fun.
Going back to the price point real quick, I just got a response from the club president I'm talking to. He wants to know if there might be a club rate for, you know, bulk purchase type thing.
Yeah, so there's definitely something. So my first reaction is to think that at least probably not. So our end goal is to make it as affordable as possible. So we're not baking in, you know, very much margin for things. I think that there's, it would depend on how it went long term. So
the cheap part of it is us. We're trying to get more radios out. We're not trying to make this be a business. Like, it's really about how cheap can we make it. And so, you know, we have a little bit of because we have to ship, and we have to time invest to put the kits together, and the boxing and the shipping and the support ish. There's this much built into it to make that be able to be available. But the goal is really to just get more out there.
Yeah. And one of the things I would tell, you know, anybody that we end up being able to partner with that maybe are in other parts of the world is the kind of things that we'd have to discuss is that, like, we know from making the antennas and stuff that stuff happens. And so, you know, we'll be like, okay, we keep running out of this one part. Let's go place this giant order. This will be great. And guess which one gets lost in the mail. And so, you know, there's some amount of like having to pad for uncertainty for when all those kind of things happen. So far, I think almost everything that could happen has happened at least once. And so just making sure that none of that is such a stressful event that it's, you know, something that's really going to be painful versus
hardware inventory for kitting and that. I mean, my buddy and I go through this with our tutor kits, right? And we run inventory checks once a month. We're ordering once a month, and we always order extra because we know there's going to be defective displays or whatever. It's just the nature of the beast to what it is. And you'll spend a lot of time doing that, but it's so rewarding to see the product out in the market.
Yep.
Yeah,
We're excited. Even the early supporters that have them and have started using them, and feedback and things that we can improve on, and some firmware things that we're working on. But it's a lot of fun.
I've
Yeah,
actually used this now. I was gonna say I've used this with. I'm going to use it with a Just OK Mini. I haven't done that yet, but I will. I've used it with an in-fed half wave. I've used it with the tiny Gawant antenna from N6ARA. I had one of those, and I was like, well, heck, it's 20 meters. I'm going to make this work, and I can like dial in 20 meters on it. And made a couple of contacts with that just here in the yard, and it was really fun. I mean, I think the thing about this too is when you have a radio that's this accessible and this affordable, you can get a little bit more adventurous with what you do with it, right? You're not taking out like a $2,000 radio in a pack or something. And I know a lot of people that they don't even want their radio to have more than like a 1.5 to 1 SWR. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to harm my radio. And actually radios can take much more than that. But I always feel like with radios like this, it's like, experiment, like, play with it, see what you can do. And I think that there's a lot of fun in having limitations on what you can do. So like this is one band, it's 20 meters, but 20 meters, you can do a lot with it depending on the time of day. And I think that there are probably going to be little DX challenges, like for people that could maybe get close to doing DXCC or something using the Pebble HF on all the modes, like single sideband CW and then FT8. With FT8 on this, you could do a lot of countries, I bet you. With the Pebble HF, and that would be awfully fun too to have some Pebble contests in the future where you have several hundred of them out in the field.
And I think that would be something you could probably coordinate it on your Discord site no differently, and actually have a coordinated Pebble HF a relay of some sort.
When we actually ended up with the early supporters, we ended up with 2 early supporters who made a Pebble to Pebble contact, and they didn't realize
They didn't know it.
Oh, that's funny.
It
That's
was
great.
It was
Forrest.
It was Forrest and Scott,
Yeah.
NB0W, and Scott actually recorded it. He had just built it the night before. He went down and he's like, I'm just going to hunt some POTA on it. He turned on his camera, he started recording, and he sent it to us. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And Forrest at the same time, he was like, I think I'm going to go activate on the Pebble today. And I put 2 and 2 together, and I listened to the recording, and I was like, he just got Forrest. And then we put it together, and they had contacted each other. So it's really kind of cool. It's actually in our release video. We incorporated that video of what it sounds like with the 2 of them. So it was really kind of neat.
Nice.
That is awesome to have the first documented recorded HF Pebble or Pebble HF to Pebble HF contact there. So a lot of people don't know this, but Vaughn of POTA Power and myself, we believe we had the very first IC 7300 Mark II to IC 7300 Mark II POTA contact.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
Famous in our own way.
Yeah.
Hey, Tim, time check.
Yep.
Thank you.
I am reminded by my producer here that we are coming up on the hour. So we've pretty much gone through everything. If you guys, if anybody wants this and they're interested in it, pebblehf.com. Any parting words or anything from you guys?
No, a huge thank you to Barb and Guido for their part in being able to make this happen. And I hope that it ends up being a source of fun for a lot of people. And so hopefully sign up for updates, and as soon as it's available and starts to become available, we'll send updates.
Awesome. Thank you. Thomas, thank you for joining us tonight. Any last minute parting gifts that you'd like to throw out there? Or?
Well, again, I just like to I just like to thank Mike and Becky for putting together the idea of doing this. Like, I've got to be honest, like I wouldn't have the energy to do this, like to come up with this idea, to make a radio, to pull the people together. There's a lot that goes into it, especially when you you start to introduce that to the amateur radio market, and there's a lot of excitement and people want it. You end up being at the end of a lot of communications, a lot of questions, you know, a lot of things like that. When you're walking into this, not to be making a big profit, you're in to actually just make this affordable thing that that's open to everyone. And I love the fact that you did this. It's the reason I wanted to be I want to be your first supporter, your first, you know, early supporter, because I just really believe in this sort of thing, like making amateur radio accessible and fun and getting people to build things that they're maybe uncomfortable building. This is a great first project. I can't even think of too many kits out there that are as easy to build as this. I mean, this is actually a pretty easy build. If you've got someone there with you that knows what you're doing, just look over your shoulder. If you've never done it before, go for it. You can make this happen, and you can hop on the air the same day you build the radio.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. Let's see, Andrew, you snuck in there right as we were getting started. Hey, good evening. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, no, I wanted to be on here just because this is right up my alley, which is just, you know, affordable radio, gets you on the air. And I was looking at your other stuff. I still haven't checked out the Just Okay Mini, but I saw it on your site. And I think I'm going to order one.
If you can't tell from Andrew's YouTube channel, he's cost conscious and has to make good purchasing decisions.
Yeah, my head's just swimming with, you know, like how cheap can we get on HF for, and I think that's more people on HF is better. So I was really excited that I got to sit in on this.
And your correct answer is about tree fitting.
About tree fitting. Right. Thank you, Andrew. Vince.
Dude, I've got a video releasing tomorrow. My latest video with the RSE line. From Ham Radio Rookie, VF Comms, and he's got new RSE line that just came in today. It's bright orange in color, so you want to take a look at that. And I still have more shooter kits, ve6lk.com. You'll find them there.
You weren't supposed to drop that until I got my bright orange.
Well, hey, Ben has a whole bunch of rolls. Like I saw the photos.
Okay. Awesome.
So, yep.
Cool. Let's see here, Frank. What do you got going on?
Not a whole lot, just the usual. I'm sitting here dropping channel links and whatnot. I've been dropping Pebble HF all evening, dropped Thomas's channel, dropped Ham Radio Duo's channel. I swear I can talk. I woke up late. It's been a day and a half. You know where to find me. I'll leave it at that. Nice and easy. Jeff, what about you?
Oh, boy. What about me? Oh, boy. Finally got a video just about done. It's taken me a while to do because there's just so much I had to do for it. For some reason, the audio was complete garbage, but I salvaged it, so it's bearable. And it just took me a while to get it done. The 5-2 challenge is still going on. Week 6 now? Yeah, we're in week 6. We'll see how that comes out. And got some other things I got to work on and get coming out soon. So be on the lookout. What about you, Tim?
Well, travel week for me. Where am I at here?
You're right where you were.
Yeah, right where I left. Travel week for me coming up next week. The More Expo. I'm sure you've seen a couple different YouTube channels that have talked about it. But our mission is to kind of get amateur radio into the overlanding community. They're already GMRS aware. Some use CBs. There's some, and there's actually a growing number of ham radio operators. But it's a pretty large overlanding event right in the middle of the United States in Springfield, Missouri. If you know Dave Hillbilly Ham, it's right in his backyard. His club will be there with their truck and trailer and everything. And we're just going to get out and have some fun. So Ham Radio 2.0, Jason, myself, Rob, Digital Rancher, Paul, Prep Ham Paul will be there. Kyle, AA0Z Kyle will be there. Bill, Ham Radio Tectonics will be there as part of our core group. Then there'll be some others that that are showing up, and we're just going to have fun and spread the good word of amateur radio. So I don't know. There was some conversation if there's going to be a Live Nation episode on
I
next.
haven't seen anything. Josh hasn't responded, so who knows?
No, we don't know. But nonetheless, make sure you go and check that out. Anyways, type in Ham Nation.
Find
One
some
last
of
thing before we
our many friends on YouTube and watch their videos tonight.
Absolutely.
And one last thing before we get out of here. Mike and Becky, people can contact you via an email on pebblehf.com or Ham Radio Duo's YouTube page.
Yeah, or on the Discord would be a good way to do it on our Discord.
I don't
channel.
know how many of these people have Discord, but just to cover bases.
Our email is good on QRZ, and then when you go to the shop, it's there too.
Yeah, there's a contact us on shop.hamradio.com. Good on QRZ, and on learnmorsecode.org. There's a link to our Discord.
Okay,
perfect.
I'll get all your contact information down in the description. So if anybody catches this on Team Replay, they know how to get a hold of you. All right, awesome, guys. Well, hey, thank you very much for joining us. I do appreciate it. I look forward to seeing this get into full swing and distribution, and we're gonna have a good time. And Thomas is shaking his head. He's excited, guys. You don't normally see Thomas this excited, and he's pretty excited. So
yeah, well, thank you so much for having us.
This is great.
Yeah. Thanks
awesome.
a lot.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Get outdoors, enjoy the outdoors. Do a POTA activation, a SOTA activation. Just go play radio. So we'll talk to everybody later. 73.
Bye, everybody.
73, everybody.